Welcome to a brief tutorial on how to process raw EMG data using EMG Tools and using the normal import option here. So this first option, selecting the row and column to import. So what I have are these raw EMG files in CSV format, and I'll pull them up for you. So if I open up one of the files, I can see that my numerical data starts at a set row and set column in the data file. So what I want to do is tell EMG Tools to start importing my data from this row and column. So if I count, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3. So the sixth row and the third column. So just as it so happens, the default value in EMG Tools is to start importing at this range, but you can adjust it to anything you want if your files aren't quite like that. But what I'll do is just check that box, and that immediately deselects all the other options. And then for this example, I'll process all 16 channels of data that are in those files. So my sample rate here is in Hertz, and that's just the default value and what my data was actually sampled at. And so that the next step then is to import my MVCs. So I want my MVC files, I'm going to hit this import button and then just navigate to the folder that they're located at. So these are my MVC files here just at the top. What I want to do in this step is select all of the files at once that I want to use for normalization. So I'll click on this first file here, my AB MVC, and then I'll press the Shift key on my keyboard and highlight all of the files. So now I've selected all of these files and I'm going to hit open. And once I do that, if you notice, I've populated this drop-down menu here that has all of those file names in them. And I've also set the directory here. So it's showing me what directory now I'm pulling my data from. So this is a good check for you to make sure that you're getting your data from the correct location. Now, when I set my number of channels, I populated this list box here with all of the channel numbers. And then in my feedback window here, I populated this column here showing that I have 16 channels that I want to normalize, and I need to assign an MVC file to each channel. So these will be the channels in my data files, and then the MVC file is which MVC file I want to use to normalize that particular channel in my data file. So for example, if channel 1 in my data file, if I want that to be normalized to the AB MVC, all I do is I'm going to go to this drop-down menu here and just click the AB MVC, making sure that channel 1 is highlighted here. So what I can do is continue doing this, and I'll do that in just a second, but first I'm going to select to remove quiet lying and import my quiet lying file. So this will help remove any DC bias, because I've taken files where the subject was just quietly lying and not contracting any muscles. So my two quiet lying files are here, quiet lying on the back and on the front, and I'm going to import those the same way. So select the first one and then hold down the Shift key to select both and then hit open. And that again will populate this drop-down menu here, and it will also set this directory and show you where you're pulling the files from. So when I check this remove quiet lying checkbox, again, it populated this list box here as well as this column here in the feedback window. So this is now telling me that I've got to assign files for MVC and quiet lying to all of these channels. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I've actually got this Word document here showing me which channel requires which MVC file for normalization. So channels 1, 2, 3, and 4 are back, as well as 6, 7, and 8. So I can actually do all of that in one shot. So I'm going to select channel 1, and holding down the control key on my keyboard, I can select channel 2, 3, and 4. And then it was also 6, 7, and 8. So now I've got all of these channels highlighted in my list box, and then I'm just going to click on back MVC, and there we go. We've got all of those assigned, all of these channels assigned to the back MVC file. So now what I'm going to do is channel 5 here that needs the hamstring MVC. I'll set that, and I'll go, so channels 9, 10, and 11, or sorry, yeah, 9, 10, and 11, and then 14, 15, and 16 are my AB MVC. So I'm going to select all of those in the list box, just again, holding down my control key and then clicking on each number, 9, 10, 11, 14, 15, and 16. And then click Add, and then those will populate those channels right there. So then channel 12, we'll just finish this up, glute med, and channel 13 is my quad MVC. So now I've assigned all of the files I need for data normalization. And now what I want to do is do the same thing for my quiet lying files. So for channels 1 through 8, and here again, I'm just dragging my mouse down over this. You can do it in a number of different ways. You can either drag your mouse to select sort of a block of numbers. You can hold the control key to sort of select numbers like that, or you can hold the shift key and select a big block of numbers like that. So really any way you can multiply select numbers in this list box here. So channels 1 through 8, I'm going to want quiet lying on the front because those are all back-based electrodes. So I don't want them laying on the electrodes for the quiet lying files. So there we go, I've done that. And now channels 9, 10, and 11 are abs, so I want quiet lying on the back. Same thing with 14 to 16. And then channels 12, that is glute med, so I actually want quiet lying on the front. And then 13 for the quad, I want quiet lying on the back. So there we go. So now I've completed step 2 here, and I've assigned files for MVCs and for quiet lying to all of my data files. So now the program knows which files and which channels of which files to use to normalize the data and to remove any DC bias. So the next step is I'm going to select the filter that I want to use. And there's 2 choices here, either a bandpass or a Butterworth filter. If I select a bandpass filter, this low cutoff and high cutoff frequency are both used. So this is going to trim the data and only allow a pass band between 30 and 500 hertz. If I select this Butterworth filter option, that's just a low pass filter. So the pass band is actually anything below 500 hertz. So I'm going to select a bandpass filter here to process the data. And I'm going to go through here. So the filter order, this is a second order bandpass filter based on a Butterworth. So it's a dual pass, zero lag filter. And then my linear envelope here as well, set up using a Butterworth filter. And the linear envelope is its separate filter. It's a single pass filter. And that cutoff frequency, I'm going to set at 2.5 hertz. I'll just leave it as it is. Again, that linear envelope will have a second order. And what this program can also do is downsample your files. So I will take files and I'll downsample them from the original 2160 sample rate. And if you select that option, the program will just do that for you. So that's step 3. And now what I'll do is I'll move on to step 4 here, where I choose my export options. So checking this box, I can export files. And then just for the sake of this demo, I'll also export the downsampled files. So that'll export 2 sets of files. And then what we can also do here is graph the data. So it just produces these quick graphs that show you what the process data looks like for each data file. All right, so I've checked all the boxes and now it looks like I'm ready to run the program. So I'm going to click Run. And what that does is it brings up this file selection window. And it's going to tell me to pick the data files that I want to process. So what I do here is pick all of the data files. So if I select this first one here, and then again, I'm going to hold down the Shift key on my keyboard and click the last one. So that selects all of them here. So now it's going to process all of these files. And I'm going to hit Open. And the program's just going to run here for a little while. The thing that takes the longest is actually the data import. There's a lot of sort of protections that go on to make sure that you're importing the correct region. So we're just going to wait here, and then as soon as it's done, what you'll see are a bunch of graphs pop up, and then just a quick text box that says that the program's finished. And actually, I forgot, what will actually happen first is a directory request. So it's going to ask you where you want to save the files to. So we're going to choose this processed folder here just so I can show you. It's this folder here on my desktop, and I'm going to hit select folder. And now, well, we can see new files popped up in here. So those are all my processed files. And we should see, yep, and there are my figures popping up and the message telling me it's done. So these are just quick figures where you can take a look at each data file that you processed, and it's sort of messy, but it's good for just a quick gut check to make sure that everything looks okay and you've done things correctly. And then that's a lot of figures, so what I'm going to do is just clear them all at once by hitting this clear figures button, and now they've disappeared. And in my processed folder, what I've got are all of these processed files in CSV format. So I've got these DS processed files, which are the downsampled processed data files. And if I open one of those up, we can see I've just got numerical data and it has been downsampled. And then I've got these processed files, which if I click on that, we can see, again, it's just numerical data, but instead of being downsampled, we have the fully sampled data. All right, so that is how you process data using EMG tools, using the normal import options. And the rest of them are fairly similar. They just involve knowing what you're importing and making sure you've done it correctly. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.